no matter what kind of attitude, I'm going to succeed. In the end, they loaned us the money when no other bank did. And then we opened up, I think it was like 11 months later after we purchased the building on May 17th of 1996. And holy cow, there was nights that I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, what the hell have I done?
Support for this show comes from Exit Factor. Exit Factor offers a proven method that helps small to mid-sized business owners maximize their company's value. Through one-to-one consulting services and online programs, the trusted advisors at Exit Factor teach entrepreneurs how to successfully navigate and fully leverage strategies when buying, building, and selling their companies. Participants that follow the program have experienced considerable results, with some increasing business value as much as 57% in 1 year. It's time to start running your business every day like you are going to sell it. Learn more at exitfactor.com/pod. Now enjoy How I Sold.
Welcome to How I Sold, presented by Exit Factor. Only 13% of all businesses in the U.S. are sold, but we only hear about the billion-dollar stories. Here we explore the real-life stories of entrepreneurs and business owners like you that were able to build, grow, and sell their small businesses. Now, here is your business exit expert, #1 best-selling author, and host, Jessica Fialkovich.
Welcome to How I Sold. I'm Jessica Fialkovich, and I created this podcast after spending over a decade in mergers, acquisitions, and exits, and noticing that we often hear the stories of the unicorn sales. Those companies that are valued over $1 billion. But we often don't hear the real life stories, the stories of the thousands of entrepreneurs every year that build, grow, and sell their businesses. These are their stories. Today on the show, success leaves clues. Dennis Coombs, an aerospace engineer and triathlete, takes on the world of craft brewing and restaurants with 3 partners during the late 90s boom of craft beer in Colorado. Now, Dennis was not the entrepreneur type from birth that we've interviewed in the past. He spent years educating himself and working as an engineer in some of the most successful aerospace companies in the US. But after multiple acquisitions and mergers, he and his friends had enough. On an outdoor adventure one day, they decided that pursuing their own company was the only way to go. Only one problem: what to do? Why not beer? One of them said. And that kicked off a 27.5-year journey that culminated with a successful exit most of them did not even imagine. But before we get to that, let's start back at the beginning with Dennis. Well, welcome to the show, Dennis Coombs. We're excited to have you here today. Let's just jump right in and tell us the beginning part of your story. Where were you born? Where are you from?
Okay. I was born in Boulder, Colorado, but my family moved up to Seattle, Washington when I was 2. So I grew up in the Northwest, and it was just kind of a freak accident how I ended up back here. But anyway, I went to University of Washington and got a degree in electrical engineering. And then I went to work for Boeing Aerospace, and then went to night school. And over a 5-year period, I earned my master's degree. And after I got my master's degree, I wasn't looking for another job or anything, but I got a random call from Ball Aerospace. They wanted to know if I wanted to come down for a job interview. And I said, well, I'm not really looking for a job, but they reminded me it was ski season and I could fly down, interview on a Friday, spend the weekend, fly home on a Monday morning. And it was just an epic experience. I had a great interview. I liked the company, and they had like the most amazing deep powder snow and perfect snow conditions. So I was all in.
So, I know.
Yeah. Originally, we were just going to be here for 2 years and then move back to the Northwest. But I got used to the nice climate here. And even in the wintertime when it's cold, it's usually a dry cold and not a biting cold. So anyway, I went to work for Ball Aerospace for many years. And then in I think about 93 or so, I went to work for Orbital Sciences. And Orbital Sciences, 1995 merged with Fairchild Space Electronics, and their CEO came out to Boulder and said, I got good news and bad news. The good news is y'all get salary bonuses and but you all have to move to Germantown, Maryland. So 23 out of 24 of us in that meeting said, basically, we're not moving.
Yeah.
So we essentially had quit our jobs. And so when we were, that afternoon, we were running on the Mesa Trail with two other my friends and engineers. And Craig goes, I'm tired of all these mergers and buyouts and people telling us where we got to live and move. And he said, we should start a business of our own. And I said, well, Craig, what do you want to do? And he goes, all I want to do is brew beer. He was like a home brewer. And so, we started researching it, and, we looked at, brew pubs versus, microbrews, and decided let's do a brew pub. And then we brought on a fourth partner who's kind of a real estate guru. He was also an engineer. But anyway, he found this amazing building on 6th and Main Street. The most prime real estate in the whole downtown Longmont. But it's an old historic building. It's pretty run down, needed a lot of work. But we were able to buy it, believe it or not, for $250,000 back then. And we were able to pay cash for it. And, we all mortgaged our houses and our futures. But, then we were kind of all in with both feet. And it was a struggle, not having any restaurant experience or any business experience, for engineers.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. So you all came from the engineering background?
Yes.
No one had run a restaurant before? No. Nobody, besides you've got a home brewer on the team, right? But nobody's brewed beer before.
And he was, he was an amateur brewer, home brewer, not, professional. And he was an engineer also. So, it was more engineers, but I think sometimes engineers make good business people because we embrace the latest technology, the latest software. We're not afraid of, technology. And, I think that really helped us too, because we always had the best POS system, the best security camera systems. And, that helped us, I think, stay in business in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So when did it become real for you all that you're going to do this? Was it when you found the building, or was that when it was real?
Once we found the building, then we realized just how hard it was to get financing, with 4 people without any business experience. I shopped around to 10, 11 banks and finally was able to convince one of the most conservative banks to loan us the money. And, we got an SBA loan, plus we got another building loan to basically make the building, inhabitable. We basically had to gut the building, put in new sewers, and make it for a restaurant. And but I think what I found out is anybody can make a business plan and spreadsheets and whatnot, but for a banker to loan you money, they have to believe that you guys know how to always succeed in life. And, there's this banker, Dan Grant, he knew me from triathlons, and he knew how dedicated and how, I always have this, no matter what kind of attitude, I'm going to succeed. And so in the end, they loaned us the money when no other bank did. And then we opened up, I think it was like 11 months later after we purchased the building on May 17th of 1996. And holy cow, there was nights that I'd wake up at 3:00 in the morning and go, what the hell have I done? But, like anything, I think why we were successful is, first off, my partners had different skill sets than I did. So we kind of complemented each other. We all had our own specific areas of expertise. So we worked well together. I was kind of the detailed-oriented guy that, even though I didn't have a background in finance, I knew numbers and, very, very analytical, very, very detailed. And so I took on, basically the accounting and the HR role. And another person, took on building the brewery and making, all those equipment decisions. Another person was the big project person that did, the renovations and, upgrades. And And then Dave DePonte, he was the technical wizard, the guy that put together, all the security cameras and the computers and the POS system and maintained all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was, we, like anything, we lost a lot of money for a couple of years. And, but like anything, to be successful, my dad says, all you need to do is figure out what do the most successful businesses do and just copy it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, we joined the Restaurant Association, and I went down to Denver, and I kind of read all kinds of information down there, tried to figure out what key things do independently owned restaurants that are successful have in common. And kind of figured out, the one message that came away is, first off, you want to hire the most talented management team that you can. You want to pay them 15% more than the competition's paying, so nobody can steal them from you. And then you want to have incentive bonuses. If you grow the sales from A to B, you get this bonus. If you only grow it halfway, you get half the bonus. So it was. So, and once we adopted that philosophy, we started this not really make money yet, but we weren't losing money.
I love the fact that you were leveraging the Restaurant Association. And I also believe that success leaves clues. So following others, super important. But what was the competition like in terms of craft breweries? I mean, it seems like you guys were probably pretty early on in that trend in Colorado.
Well, it looked like the data was saying that, say, 2 out of 7 craft breweries were not going to make it, and only 1 out of 7 brew pubs at that point were not going to make it. So we just looked at that. And with the craft brewery, you were fine if you got on the eye level of the liquor store shelves and got that prominent space. But it was just kind of a crapshoot. It was just looking at numbers and statistics locally. And, we also had a big regional brewery here, the Left Hand Brewery, and they were, in front of us. So it says, well, let's do something different. And so you're following success leaves clues. You're hiring the best management team. You're getting close to that break even number, and now you're really, I would assume, focused on growth. So, once you're starting to hit your stride, what's next for you all? One thing that we were fortunate, while we were in this phase, we had Ross Hagan, who became our general manager, worked for us. He was going to law school. And I just noticed how he was like the best bartender I ever saw. He could like multitask, think 3 drinks ahead, be efficient, and then also waiting tables. I mean, he was just like a genius. He's one of those rare guys who could think, almost in 3 dimensions and handle, 6 tables and not get any confused. And anyway, after he graduated from law school, he came to me and says, law school was a great education and I'm glad I went. But I love the restaurant business. And so I want to be in this business. And unfortunately at that time, we had like maybe a C+ restaurant manager. He wasn't going to take us to the next level. But he wasn't doing bad enough where we could justify firing him and making Ross. So Ross went down to Tampa Bay, Florida, and got a 6-month training program from Hops Restaurant and Brewery. So, they basically trained him up for 6 months, and they were going to make him a unit manager of one of their units down in Littleton. And, I kept in contact with him the whole time. Says, Ross, I got a better deal. Why don't you come in and run our place now? Because that time I was able to convince my other partners that, we weren't going to go where we needed to go with the current general manager. So they, finally, a little bit reluctantly agreed. He says, well, he doesn't have, a restaurant background either. And I go, well, this guy, he's the real deal. I just see him operate. And, from the day Ross stepped into our place, we never lost another dollar, in a month's time period. And then, we made a deal where he would get vested in stock shares over a 7-year period. We actually shortened it to 6 years. And, he was really the magic sauce, that really grew this business. And so we were, just always going to be internally grateful to what Ross did. There's some other things that I learned. The restaurant business is a people business. And if you really notice people, pay attention, like for instance, we had our desserts were like our weakest thing on the menu. Mm-hmm. And I noticed reading a bunch of resumes, one of our wait staff was actually a trained pastry chef.
Oh.
So I went to Courtney, says, Courtney, can you fix our desserts? And she just lit up. Says, yeah, sure I can. So she came up with a whole new dessert menu and taught the cooks how to make it. And, our dessert sales just like tripled. And, the rest of the wait staff loved her because they were getting higher tips and upselling desserts. And anyway, we found out that her family was going to a family reunion in New York. And so just kind of a payback for what she did for us, we bought all her plane fares for her whole family to go to her family reunion.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So this is the kind of business that, you need to touch people and make them feel like, they're important. And I think that's, one of our key things is, we've grown so big, and I became mayor of our city for 6 years. I didn't have the time to spend like I used to be able to spend, with the employees. But, Ross does a good job at doing that too. So,
So I was going to ask, so what year was it that Ross came on? So you started in 97. What year did Ross join the team about?
Well, let's see. It was probably around 2000.
2000. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe 2001. And then we expand. At that time, we were only half as big. We had half of our building was a workout gym. The other half was this restaurant. And then shortly after we brought him on, we decided we could make more money and expand, kick the gym out, build a sports bar theme to this side, and, expand our kitchen and double our seating. And, that was a pretty scary venture, but, it paid off, in spades. So it was a great thing.
Yeah, that's a great expansion. So, once Ross is on and he's kind of running the show, are all the partners, and I was going to bring up too, because you got active in your community too, and city council and as a mayor, were all the partners still active in the business once Ross was kind of leading everything, or were you in a more hands-off role?
Well, I was never had a chance to be hands-off because I had to do, the management of the business, the one that had to work with the CPA to file the taxes, make sure all the reports were filed, and the sales tax were paid. I think that the other people started to take a lesser and lesser roles. I mean, Craig hired then a professional brewer, so he wasn't quite as involved. I mean, he'd be involved with, maintenance of the brewery equipment and stuff. And then we were done with big major projects and building stuff. So Tom kind of took a lesser role. And, then Dave had, all the technology pretty well under wraps. But, as we grew from 30 employees to 100 employees, my job got, 3 times harder, and everybody else's jobs got easier. So it was basically Ross and I were running the restaurant essentially for the last several years. So
kind of moving forward, I'm wondering what challenges you all faced and how you overcame them, and kind of thinking about timing. I mean, Ross takes over in 2000, you're doing really well, but right around the corner, we got the Great Recession coming up. So talk a little bit about that and how you guys steered through that time period.
Yeah, I mean, basically our food vendors were telling me that what's the deal? Everybody else's food orders in all the other restaurants are down by 25%, and yours are staying flat. Up until that point, we were growing at 15%, but we just managed to just stay flat. Mm-hmm. And so I went around and started talking to some of the customers, and they said, well, in this economic climate, we don't go out to eat as much. So we decided if we are going to go out, we're going to go to the restaurants that, helped local things like the Humane Society and our center, and that, built a lot of social capital. Yeah. Where the chain restaurants didn't do that. So I think that's why we had that social capital payback that helped us through that tough period in 2008. So
that's really interesting. And actually really heartwarming to know that the community rallied around you because you had been supporting the community as a business and as a community member. So I never put that thought together, really, that would have helped sustain small business through that time period. But it's amazing. So, and I know you guys, I've always continue to build social capital through the business, even after the recession. So
yes, we did. Well, then, another big major milestone we had is, our brewer, Craig, always did the liquor license each year because he paid the beer taxes. And so, and he did that job flawlessly for, 17, 18 years. And then one year he spaced out paying for a liquor license, renewing it. And we didn't find out about it until, it was like 2 months past due, and we got basically shut down. We couldn't serve any alcohol. Basically, it was a mistake that cost us $250,000.
So what did you shut down the business
No, we kept the business open. We just couldn't serve alcohol. We had food
as a brewery.
And everything. Yeah, we could. Yeah, as a brewery, we, so it was devastating, but, it was, it took all my people's skills, really to pull everybody back together and says, here's where we are. We can just give up and quit and, be mad at each other, or we can buckle down, get through this, get reopened, with their liquor license in 2 months and move forward. And so fortunately, we chose the lesser of two evils, to work together. But
and we'll recover and move on. And now it's just a footnote in the greater story, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
When we come back in just a moment, Dennis has now built a sustainable, profitable business. So what's next? Running for political office, of course. When we come back, how Dennis takes on this new personal challenge and continues moving the business in the right direction. Stay with us. I'm Jessica Fialkovich, and you are listening to How I Sold.
Support for this show comes from Exit Factor. Have you ever wondered if your business is sellable? The truth is, thousands of businesses sell every year, from just a few $1,000s to billions. Now, there are a ton of experts that will teach you how to start a business, more on how to grow one, but only Exit Factor will teach you how to build a valuable and efficient business that is sellable at any time, no matter what happens. Visit exitfactor.com/pod to learn more about us and take our free assessment to find out if your business is sellable. That's exitfactor.com/pod.
Hey, welcome back to How I Sold. I'm Jessica Fialkovich. We're with Dennis Coombs, co-founder of Pumphouse Brewery. He's entered the brewery restaurant space with 3 of his friends and co-founders after spending years as aerospace engineers. He took to learning from the best and implementing those strategies in his restaurant to make it successful, including bringing on a core leadership team. They are now about to get their biggest challenge yet as Dennis balances the business and his next venture. Tell me a little bit about your personal journey too while you're doing this, because you do decide to run for mayor, and if I'm not incorrect, 3 terms, right? For Mayor Longmont?
Yeah. It wasn't really on my bucket list of things to do, but I went to a city council meeting and I saw the current mayor was one of these leaders where he's a hammer and everything is a nail. He just tries to pound everybody in submission. And I've always been really successful in my career as an engineer and even in the restaurant business of building, unity and listening to ideas. And I just thought that would be a much better way to lead a city. And so after, much hemming and hawing, I decided, okay, I'm in. I do remember we both went to speak at a Rotary meeting. And I remember the current mayor was back at the table behind me with several of his friends. And I overheard him say that I had like 0 chance of beating him. And anytime anybody's ever told me I have 0 chance of doing anything, I'll work as hard as anybody's ever worked. I walked 1/3 of the city and knocked on all those doors, talked to people. So, I beat him because I outworked him. And but I knew just when I heard that comment, I knew at that point I was going to win. just because of how my mind works.
It gave you the motivation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how did you balance, you've got a business with 100 employees running full steam ahead, and now you're running a campaign. Then once you get elected, you're the mayor of a town. Like, how did you balance that workload? And you have a family, like we didn't talk about that, right?
Yes. Well, it was tough. And I still stayed to be a pretty competitive athlete too during that time period. So,
Wow.
but my wife was pretty helpful. She took over a lot of the bookkeeping, entering the invoices and entering all the deposits and paying the bills and stuff. During that time, and and then my partners were stepped up too and did a few more things while I was mayor. But it was tough, but it was also exciting, to be mayor of. We had the 2013 flood, and then we rolled out high-speed broadband, and everybody told me that, well, Comcast and CenturyLink tried to tell our citizens that I was going to bankrupt the city with my crazy ideas, whatnot. But like anything else, I met with other mayors of other cities that were highly successful at it, and mayors that were not successful whatsoever. And then I learned why these cities were successful and why these weren't. And once I understood that, I knew we were going to be highly successful. I mean, we had to basically get a 30% subscription rate, within like a 3-year period to pay back our bonds. And we were getting 80% subscription rate into every neighborhood we rolled into right off the bat. So we paid off our bonds way ahead of time. And, everybody loves it. Plus it brought new businesses into Longmont, like Data Ductus expanded. And I asked their CEO, how come you expanded here in Longmont? Because if you have the fastest internet in the United States. And so
there you go. So, I mean, it's you use the same methodology that success leaves clues. Like, what are other towns doing to be successful, and how do we implement that? So, yeah. So served 3 terms with mayor. Then you exit that, but you still got the business, right? So now where are we at? Like probably 2016, 2017, right around there, right?
Yeah, 2017 is when I was done being mayor, and so I stayed pretty busy. I started taking up bike racing, road bike racing, because I couldn't run anymore, and because I used to do a lot of triathlons, but I kind of gave up running and took up road racing, and just enjoyed that. And I've got 2 kids that they're both attorneys. They're both highly successful, and they're just amazing. So I'm looking forward to being able to go visit them a lot more often.
Yeah. So when did the conversations about exit or selling the business first start? And was it just between the partners? Was it one person who brought it up? Was it just, did you feel like it was time?
Yeah. I mean, I hate to admit it, but I'm 70 years old.
70 years young, right?
Yeah. 70 years. Yeah. And I have my health, and I, just feel like it's time to move on and do some other things, and travel more and spend more time with my kids. And so, at first it was just kind of Ross and I talked about it. And I know the other 3 partners were not keen on selling, because it's hard to take the money that we're going to get from this and invest it and get the kinds of, immediate returns that we get from our profit draw from.
Right.
But, we are taking our chips off the table, and nobody could say what's going to happen in the future, in this environment. Economies always change. And it was, pretty scary going through that COVID shutdown. I mean, here it was day before March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, one of our biggest days. And we had just stocked up big food order, big liquor order. We had everybody. And all of a sudden, boom, we get the order from the governor that we can't operate that day. And we said, we had all this food and labor, and it was a disaster. It was pretty scary, but we I think we did all the right moves. We paid the key employees, and then we paid everybody's healthcare insurance, because it's insane that you're going to lay these people off and they're going to lose their healthcare and their jobs at the same time. I mean, that's just not right. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody that had health care, we paid their premiums, even though they couldn't do their matching portion.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped, build some real good bonds with our long-term employees. And so,
yes. So then I assume when we pulled out of the pandemic and the restrictions started to ease, those employees wanted to come back, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ross kept in contact, email to him, you guys want to come back? We think we can open up here, so he kept that communication open. So, I mean, I have to hand it to Ross, he worked a lot of magic behind the scenes, even though we weren't open, he was still working full time on, different. And plus we actually did some crazy projects. We put in a new marble bar and, we thought, well, if we can't operate, now's a good time to do some, even though we were bleeding cash, we still invested in the business,
Because you still believed in it. You knew that it would be another hurdle to overcome and everything would come back. So, I mean, how long did that recovery take from the shutdowns for which us in Colorado was probably about a couple months of full shutdowns, right? But
well, we had a couple months. We had two different shutdowns. We had, the initial shutdown, and then we had another kind of shutdown for a month later on. And then, during that time, we could operate only at 50% occupancy too. So, right. But, we had a big space and we had a lot of patio space. So we could make money with 50% occupancy, but a lot of smaller places, they can't make money at 50% occupancy. So we are fortunate in that, because of the building and the real estate that we had and the volume we had.
Right. So you get through that with 50% capacity, use the outdoor space. Then we kind of wrap around to 2021, or are you coming back full force at that point, or how long did that recovery take?
We basically, once all the restrictions, we started making record sales month after month after month. So, I think a lot of things were happening is, there were some restaurants that went out of business. Then there was a big fight for labor. Labor became really hard. And I think as we did a pretty good job, I mean, it's always tough for everybody, but I think the fact that we've always treated our employees pretty well. And, we had a 401k plan, we had health care, we had things that, other restaurants, we had a 4% matching for 401k.
That's very not typical for the restaurant industry.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why we were able to kind of gain or leverage over the, really tough labor market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you guys were able to leverage that, come out as winners. Plus Ross kept those relationships with the employees that maybe had been laid off to come back.
Yes.
So, wow. So full force, back to full capacity, rocking it 2021, 2020, 2022. Did you say, this is the year, of the exit?
Yeah. I mean, we always like to get out of something on the top, and we were, having several months of record sales and record profits. And, some of my partners says, well, geez, why would we want to sell now? Look at that. But I think they realized how serious I was, that I needed to get out. And that if I went out and, Ross was kind of, halfway out, those three would be scared to death to try to run this without Ross and I steering the ship. So,
yeah. Well, it's always, and we tell our clients too, I totally agree. It's always best to, exit near the top or, as close to the top as you can. Did you foresee that? And did you do any preparation work, or was, any structured exit strategy work, or was just always kind of in the back of your mind? It sounds like you're kind of running the business like you're going to sell at any time, right?
Yeah. I think this got really serious just this last year in the spring. I started having some conversations with Ross, and Ross had no idea really what the business might be worth. So, I had talked to Patrick from Transworld, and, he kind of looked at our financials and he says, this is what I think it's worth. And we were going, holy cow, that seems pretty good.
Yeah. So this is a major decision. So what did, throughout the business sale process, what did you learn? And were there any challenges that you faced that you would have done differently?
Well, I think I learned that Team Shares is a really great company for one thing. They've got some really smart employees.
And that was who the acquirer was, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They demanded, I had no idea how many documents they wanted for the due diligence. Literally, 5 years of payroll records. It's a good thing I'm well organized and had all that stuff to load up to their box, because I don't know how a normal business that wasn't well run or well organized could even sell to a company like Team Shares with their really strict due diligence requirements. So,
yeah.
And it was also a little tough too, that, having two of us that kind of wanted to sell and three that didn't. And then the third one, Tom, was kind of on the fence. And so it was a little bit like herding cats. Every little negotiation became, something that they'd dig their feet in about. And, even if it wasn't really all that, some things are worth digging your feet in, and some things, in the end really are little insignificant things that you need to just let go of. So.
Yeah, that's a good lesson, but it is, it's interesting tying it back to, if you're not really sure that you want to sell, sometimes those little things can feel a lot bigger.
Yeah.
How was it for you? Now 25 years, right? That you were.
Well, that's actually 26 and a half years.
26 and a half years.
Being open, and actually 27 and a half years from when we first incorporated and bought the building. So,
yeah. So it's been a really big part of your life. Like, how was that, how was that emotional journey for you? And what did the day after feel like?
I actually felt some relief, and it's not like I am walking away right now, because I'm still have to help Team Shares in the transition. So I'm still doing the finances. I'm bringing up their new president up to speed. I'm having meetings with them, weekly. So actually my workload has actually increased in the short term for probably 2 or 3 months. And then, I'm slowly handing off different things that I do. And, I wrote up a payroll procedure for them, how I run payroll. But yeah, it's been fun. But I still don't feel like I've really exited, because I still have to go down there, pick up the invoices, talk to Ross, answer questions. I'm still dealing with some HR issues and still paying the workman's comp insurance and stuff. But the end is in sight now. So I think that's, I'm feeling happy about that.
Do you have any big plans or celebration plans once the end day finally comes?
Yeah, well, I've got a golden doodle, and I'm getting another golden doodle. Her half sister's being delivered this, and so we're going to do some traveling with our golden doodles in my Tesla Model Y. We just like going road tripping and visiting people and relatives and stuff, and so just do some traveling. I might still venture in a couple little master road races, stuff like that. But yeah, it's just I just feel free that I don't have to ever deal with, another payroll or garnishing someone's wages or
all the fun sides of business.
Right.
So full on leisure, athletics, and retirement for you. You think you don't strike me as the type of person that's going to sit still for very long, though. So,
well, no, I'm still I'm on the UC Health Hospital Board of Directors. I'm on, I'm in the Rotary Club. I'm on the Boulder County Crime Victims Compensation Board of Directors, which became a massive job after we had that mass shooting at that King Soopers in Boulder. So you got like 200 victims and secondary victims, and got to decide who gets what. And so, I still stay pretty much checked into the community. So it's all stuff I don't get paid for, but it's still stuff that, someone needs to step up and do. So.
No. So Dennis, before we wrap up, I've got 2 final questions for you.
Okay.
The first is, you came from an industry that you had no experience in restaurants, and restaurants are known to be some of the hardest businesses to succeed at. So my first question is about, what do you think really made the difference for you all to be uber successful in one of the most challenging industries?
I think it's because I have people skills. I know how to relate to people. I know how to get people with different backgrounds and ideas to row the boat in that same direction. I remember when I was mayor, one of the city council women, Katie Witt, and we both saw the same set of data, and I made a decision, fell on this side of the fence, and she fell on the other side of the fence. So the next morning I said, Katie, we looked at the same data, why did you vote this way? And she explained something, from her life experience and perspective that made total sense. And then I realized that I don't have the right life experience to solve every problem. And it's okay to have, a diverse set of ideas. As long as you have an open mind and know how to work with people, you can get a lot of things done. And it's too bad our political world can't be more like that. This world would be a lot better off.
Yes, very true. So people skills, number one key to success.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. So my final question is that if you could wrap up your whole story, your whole journey into one quote or piece of advice for listeners, what would that be?
Well, failure is not an option.
I love it. It's just that inspiration, like when you were running for mayor and the guy said you had 0% chance, right? Failure is not an option. It's a driver, right?
Yes. Yeah. The other thing I like to think of is no matter what, it's like in a bike race, you're in a pack and, anytime there's a transition from slow to fast, that's when the attack's going to come. Mm-hmm. And no matter what, you just can't let a gap open up. You've just got to be in the right position, right time, and just cover that gap. So that's what I think. No matter what, you're not going to get dropped.
No matter what. Well, I love it, Dennis. I'm so happy for you and Ross and all the partners. I mean, you built a very successful business in Pumphouse. Congratulations on the journey and the exit, and we wish you only the best in the future. That's Dennis Coombs, co-founder of Pumphouse Brewery. Dennis and his partners built a complete team focused on the people that make the business what it is, and using clues from successful competitors to build one of the most well-known brewery pubs in the Boulder, Colorado area. We know he will keep himself busy and look forward to hearing about what community and social projects he heads up next. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show this week. If you want to support us, spread the word by subscribing on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube. You can also leave us a 5-star review or post about us on social media. We really do appreciate it. If you'd like to learn more about How I Sold or apply to be on the show, go to howisold.co. I'm Jessica Fialkovich, and you've been listening to How I Sold.
Thank you for listening to How I Sold, presented by Exit Factor. Please follow us on your favorite podcasting app so you don't miss an episode. Another way to support the show is by leaving a review. Find more information about How I Sold and Exit Factor, including how to be on the show at www.exitfactor.com/howisold.